I just got through another chapter in my reread of Lord of the Rings. The chapter was called The Passage of the Marshes. It's the second chapter that we've spent with Sam and Frodo, and now Gollum has joined the mix. Now, this is where it should be occurring to most readers that the second half of Two Towers is going to be drastically different from the first half, where we were with Aragorn and company. In that half, things were fairly fast-paced for Tolkien standards. We were meeting a lot of new characters. There were a lot of story beats. It was very adventurous. But the second half, all of our time with Sam and Frodo, in fact, is much more minimalistic, way more slow-paced. Not a lot happens in these chapters. Tolkien fills them, instead of story beats, with character beats. So we're learning about the dynamic between these three characters, and it's mostly done through Sam's perspective, which is an interesting choice for sure. Frodo is becoming increasingly withdrawn and distracted by the burden of the ring, and Gollum is just a complete creature, very much an enigma. We don't know his motivations. Frodo seems to have this bond with him or want to rehabilitate Gollum because he understands the burden of the ring. But Sam doesn't trust him at all. He's keeping watch all night. We're getting a lot of Sam's thoughts about being suspicious and just not liking this whole dynamic that's been established here. So that keeps things tense. And the other things that keep things tense is the fact that these passages are being watched by Nazgul flying overhead. They're feeling the draw of the ring in the vicinity somewhere. And of course, the dead marshes are haunted by the spirits of all of these dead soldiers from the last alliance of men and elves. And if you get pulled in by their deadlights, then you could die as well. This, of course, is pulling inspiration from Tolkien's time on battlefields during World War I, but it's also pulling from old fantasy tropes. The Will-o'-the-Wisps, for example, and also other fantasy novels like The King of Elfland's Daughter, which came out a few decades before this, which had a very similar scene to the Dead Marshes here. But in spite of all that, this chapter is very slow-paced, like I said, just kind of sauntering through this landscape, very melodramatic descriptive prose from Tolkien about how cursed and wretched the landscape is and how much it sucks to be there and all this stuff. But then we get a point of interest at the end of the chapter where finally we're let in on Gollum's thoughts, and that's because he talks to himself when he thinks he's alone. Sam overhears him playing Smeagol and Gollum, debating on what to do, whether or not to betray both of them and kill them, or to lure them into the lair of Shelob. So we're definitely being given breadcrumbs of interest to keep us going here, but like I said, very slow-paced and not my favorite section of Lord of the Rings, for sure.